The operators behind me are representative of our heavy-duty line of industrial door operating equipment. Perhaps you have one or all of these models in your facility. I'm John Loenenschloss, president of Air-Lec Industries, and the purpose of this tape is to cover the simple installation and maintenance steps regarding the operators. You will notice as we move from model to model that there are certain similar features that run throughout all the operators. These are the patented characteristics that make our operators unique and very flexible in their application. We've manufactured door operators since 1921. From that you realize that we have many different models in the field. However, the ones that we'll be covering on this tape are the most recent manufacture and the ones that you will probably be the most familiar with, even though some of these models from 1921 are still in use. We'll be using the installation and maintenance instructions that go with the equipment, so it will help if you have them before you, and we'll be able to follow as we go along. I'll be using a prepared text that is geared to these installation and maintenance instructions, and take it one step at a time until we've covered all of the equipment. Now, if at this time you miss something or are not clear about it, that's the time to rerun the tape and pick it up before going on to the next step. Now, from here we'll move into the shop and see the actual models on working doors. All right, now we're out here in the shop and we'll endeavor to cover all of the operators that you should run into or have in your plant. Now, it's going to be a little difficult to cover all of the models since, as you know, the company has been making these since 1921. But we'll try to cover as much as we can in the situations that you're most likely to encounter in your plant or installations that you will see in other places. The thing to remember is that the operators require very little maintenance once they're installed, but it is essential that they be installed correctly. To make sure that they're installed correctly, we're going to go over a check sheet, and I'm going to have that in a fairly structured way so that you can follow along. First of all, we'll cover the things that are common to all of the different model of operators. So we'll go over here and use a swing as an example. All the doors must have door stops to limit the travel. In other words, they have to stop in the closed position and in the open position against a firm stop. This you have to have to enable you to properly time the operator and to prevent the piston rods from bottoming on the cylinder cap. The door must move smoothly from open to close by hand. There can be no dragging or obstructions in the hardware, or the best insulation will not work smoothly. Air should be piped to the operator with adequate size piping so that the operator isn't starved, and it should come off the top of the pipe. In other words, the T should have the line coming off the top, not the bottom, as it goes to the operator and to the filter regulator. The track and hardware are not of our manufacture. We have to be very careful that they're of good quality, straight and true running. This is also true as you get into the hinges on a swinging door. Rollers on the sliding door should be greased frequently, but keep the grease out of the track. And no matter how good the operator is, it can't give you good service if the track is crooked and the hardware is inadequate. Because the work is done with air and springs, they're both elastic forces, the life of the door and the hardware should be extended over manual operation. It also allows you to operate the door at any time when the power is off. In other words, no one has to have a fear of being caught in when the power is off if the operators are properly installed. All of the operators use a single-acting pneumatic cylinder, like we have in the swing here, that serves both as a source of effort to move the door, and it serves to check the door as a shock absorber would when you're closing it. The spring holds the door in the open or closed position. Now, as I say, we're talking here about the spring, but you'll see as we go through the operators, this is true of all of them. The doors do not move if the air pressure goes off. Because they're held in position by the spring, if your air pressure goes down, your doors do not automatically fly open. All operators are dependent upon a timing cycle within the operator, and that regulates the flow of air to the cylinder, and the timing adjustment is explained in the installation instructions for each operator, and we'll go over each one of those instructions as we come to the individual operators. The timing cycle is the key to the versatility of the operators. That's why they can be used on so many different installations, sizes, and types. It is also one of the patented features of the equipment and makes it unique from anything that you will see elsewhere. As we run through the details on each operator, you will see that it's not necessary to be concerned with complicated wiring harnesses, reversing edges, or the like. Whether you choose a low voltage control or a pneumatic control with no electricity used whatsoever, the ceiling or wall type controls, the operator will function in the same manner. Certain steps have to be followed for unusual control situations, particularly in the pneumatic, in that you have the same length of line on each side of the door. But if we get into the control thing, that will get more complicated than is necessary right now. Just bear in mind, if you do have an unusual situation, just get in touch with the factory, and I think we can help you out. The first operator that we're going to cover is the swing. And please get out your installation template and your folder on the instructions, because we'll be following through these step by step as we cover the operator. Now, we're going to be more detailed in covering the swing than we will have to be in the others, because we'll cover some things that are very common to the operators, and in order not to be redundant, we'll cover it first with the swing, and you will see as we go through the others that there's a similarity. This model comes in a 3 and a 4-inch size, which refers to the cylinder diameter. This is also true of the other operators. This is the same operator that can be used on a small door, 3 by 7 for example, and some of them are used on doors that are in excess of 40 feet in height. This is a versatility that I was talking to you about earlier. They're used on both light and heavy doors. An example would be on some blast doors or heavy refrigeration doors that will go up to 8,000 pounds. With the addition of the kits for this operator, it can be made to swing doors in or out, to fold doors, all of varying number of degrees of opening. The operator can be mounted above the door, behind the door, on the other side of the wall from which the door is hinged, or on a wall at a right angle to the door jamb. An air seal that functions automatically with the operator, which is right here, can be added, and this is a must on freezer installations. Now, we say it's a must because when doors are built, they're usually quite flat, but later on that seal deteriorates somewhat, and the air seal is used to keep the door flat against the seal so you don't have leakage. All the demonstrations on this tape will be done on operators that are installed on mock-ups in our shop, and these mock-ups are used for instructional purposes. That's the reason that the doors will look smaller than they would normally be. They'll be shown in most cases without the covers on the operator so that you can follow the recommendations as we cover them. Now let's start by walking through the steps on the installation template. We'll assume that the operator is in place, so this procedure will merely be a checkup. The first thing we'll do is check to see if the door swings freely when it is opened by hand. That's fine. The next thing is to be sure that we have door stops. You can see here we've got a door stop in the open position, and this is the door stop that prevents the piston rod from bottoming on the head of the cylinder. The same position when the door is closed. Now we're going to assume that the operator has been located properly according to the template that I just held up, and that it's firmly mounted. In other words, that it's through bolted on a sound plate so that it can't possibly move. Steps number 3 through 7 have been followed properly, we hope, according to the tabulated dimensions. Those have to do with the center line of the hinge and the location of these points in mounting the operator. This is shown in the template. It's important to remember that we're always referring to the center line of the hinge, not the side of the door opening. The air line should have been well blown out before the operator was hooked up. Now that's so that we can get rid of any pipe dope or any particles that might be in the line. If we don't do that initially, down the line you can find that you might have problems in following the regulator or following the actual operator control or functioning in the cylinder. Now in order to check the timing to set up the operator, we'll swing the door from stop to stop and we'll bisect the arc. In other words, we want to hit the midpoint of that arc from between opening and closed. This is where the piston rod is at the maximum extension, and the pin on the timing cam, which we'll zoom in on right here to give you an idea. This is the cam right here that you can see is adjustable in a rotatable fashion so that this, when the door is at the midpoint of its travel, this cam has rotated sufficiently to depress the bleed valve. You can see, if you watch closely, the movement of that bleed valve as the door moves to one side of the midpoint from the other. It's important that when it is at the midpoint of the travel, that the bleed valve is in that position, in other words, depressed as much as it can be. The links have been properly positioned according to the template. These are the adjustable links right here. We have an adjustment here with 2 cap screws and a turnbuckle type adjustment here. And the jam nuts at each end of this turnbuckle should be locked in place. If the door is properly timed, it will open and close with a very smooth, steady motion. If the timing is too early, the door will open only part way and slam shut. If the timing is too late, the door will go approximately to the center of the arc and stay there. In other words, it won't move